At this point, I'm sure we are all contemplating what will happen to the Smash Bros. Series next. I mean, will it even continue? Smash Ultimate seems like the final send-off, seeing as it exceeded people's expectations in basically every way. So what is going to happen to Smash Bros. Next? Well, what I think is going to happen is that the devs are going to lower the stakes a little and only pick 10 of the characters that are already in Smash Bros. Now, why would they do this? Well, they're obviously tired. So today, I'm going to choose which 10 Smash Bros. Characters should represent the series if the game was boiled down to a T. Subscribe for more videos like this, let's get started. So you're probably wondering how I'm going to tackle this. There are plenty of ways I could do this after all. Firstly, I could pick the original 8 characters, plus, I don't know, Luigi and Jigglypuff, but not only would that be incredibly boring, it goes against some of the morals of the Smash series today. I could also pick the most popular characters, but that would probably lead to the roster being mostly Mario or Pokemon characters. So I decided to go about this by picking 2 strengths a character should have if they want a spot on the list. Number 1. How iconic are they to the Smash Bros. Series? Were they a popular request? Maybe Smash Bros. Just wouldn't be the same without them. Number 2. How unique is their moveset? I decided to try to pick my characters to each represent a different stereotype of Smash Bros. Character so that 2 stereotypes don't overlap and some important stereotypes aren't ignored. I also had to decide the ratio of first party characters to third party characters, so I just took the amounts of both in Smash Ultimate and put them into percents. 77% are taken up by first parties and 22% are taken up by third parties. So to balance it out a little more, I decided on 7 first party characters and 3 third party characters to represent the roster. With all that out of the way, let loose the secrets. Alright, let's just get some of the obvious ones out of the way. I feel like I don't need to explain myself for any of these, but just in case you are skeptical that the most popular video game characters shouldn't be in a video game crossover, let me enlighten you. If you feel like you don't need to watch this, you can skip to this timestamp. Mario, he's the most popular video game character, he's the face of Nintendo, he's on the front of every single Smash Bros. Cover, he has the role of teaching the player some of the basic elements of Smash Bros. Link, he's one of Nintendo's big boys, his series has been going on just as long as Mario, his stereotype is no doubt important considering the amount of sword fighters we see in Smash Bros. Today. Kirby, he is Sakurai's child, he's also a prevalent series, his series inspired Smash Bros. Quite a lot. If I were to cut him off the roster, I would lose all respect. Pikachu, Pokemon is insanely popular, not just in video games but in pop culture. Pikachu is the mascot of the series, no other Pokemon is as deserving as him, he fits the archetype of a strange animal. Oh, and by the way, if you're one of the cool people who stayed around and didn't skip, give yourself a pat on the back. Hello there, people who skipped, I bet your back is feeling strangely smooth right now. Now for the other 4 first party slots. What other Nintendo characters will join this small roster? Well, for my next pick, Inkling. Some of you may think this choice is a little odd, so let me explain. Every character I've picked so far are from older Nintendo franchises, so why not pick a character that represents modern Nintendo? It also represents the online side of Nintendo, which none of these characters really do. I think it's also safe to say that Splatoon as a franchise is here to stay, especially since it is now receiving spin-offs. The Inkling's moveset is also definitely unique enough to justify a place on the roster. Inklings were also the first thing shown off for Smash Bros. Ultimate, so they are no doubt important to the series, so for all these reasons, I think that earns the Inklings a spot on this roster. Following Inkling is... I did debate a little as to if I should pick Donkey Kong since he is kind of sort of maybe a Mario rep, and having 2 characters from one series may be a little redundant for a roster with 10 characters, but I decided it was fine since Donkey Kong holds an entire series to his name. He is also the only heavyweight character I am including on this list, so that stereotype of heavier characters is satisfied. Donkey Kong Bonanza is also a major factor as to why Donkey Kong is a good character for the roster, as not only does it show that the series is no doubt continuing, but with the high amounts of praise the game received, it would be a disservice not to include Donkey Kong on the list, so he can stay. You could replace Donkey Kong with Yoshi, but I think DK is the better choice here. I do think it would be cool if the next Smash Bros. Game would let us pick between his new and old design since I am a fan of both. Up next, I have picked Samus. She represents the missile, bomb, nukes, airstrikes, weapons of mass destruction type of character. With the upcoming release of Metroid Prime 4, Samus is going to have a lot more moveset opportunities the devs can take advantage of. Not much more to say, Samus is quite an iconic character, you get the point. Now that we have the first party characters out of the way, this is where it may get interesting. I only have 3 slots remaining to give to third party characters. Who, oh who do I give them to? Well, the first one I picked is one that I'm sure most of us can agree on. I mean, come on man. If Sonic the Hedgehog is not standing shoulder to shoulder with some of the most popular video game characters in the game about video game crossovers, then we are still living in the 90s. I think we can all agree Sonic gets on this list just because he is the most well-known third-party character. Not only is he absurdly iconic, but his history with Nintendo is rich, from being rivals in the 90s to collaborating with Mario in the Olympic Games. Maybe you could argue his moveset is a little too basic or maybe even annoying, but with all the new Sonic stuff that's come out after Ultimate's release, I feel like it would be foolish not to do something different with his moveset. Maybe he could use some attacks from Sonic Frontiers, maybe use some of the Chaos Emerald abilities from Sonic Superstars, or even use the Wisps from Sonic Colors. Also, please give us a chemical plant stage. Now for the next third-party character, it was honestly a tough choice. At first I went with Sora since he was the most requested character from the ballot, but while that is quite a big factor, I don't think Kingdom Hearts as a series holds enough weight to be on a roster with 10 characters, especially since it was so difficult to get him in the first place. My mind then drew to the character Kingdom Hearts collabed with, Cloud. He is the main character from one of the most beloved RPG series of all time, Final Fantasy. However, at some point I decided against him since he really only represents Final Fantasy VII, so I thought it might be a little odd to have the third party lineup be Sonic the Hedgehog and Final Fantasy VII. Sure, Cloud is probably the most popular Final Fantasy character, but if he represented more of the series, I'd be more okay with keeping him in. The character I ended up landing on, Ryu. Not only is he
Say the line, Bart!
iconic, but he also represents the whole of the Street Fighter series. His moveset is also quite different in terms of core gameplay, since he is made to mimic Street Fighter's gameplay. There are also quite a bunch of characters like this in Smash now, and it would be weird to have the fighting video game crossover without the fighting video game character. Now we only have one slot remaining. I only have one more opportunity to feature an entire series in one character. Now who am I possibly going to choose? Who could possibly be worthy of being the 10th character in the Smash game with 10 characters? You've got to be kidding. Steve Minecraft from Minecraft. So some of you may find this decision strange. I mean, Steve only represents one game and maybe some spin-off games that no one really cares about. But I think this guy is worthy of staying in the world of Smash Bros. Firstly, let's get the obvious thing out of the way. He is, you know, the guy from the best-selling video game of all time, so he undoubtedly is important in the gaming world, being the default character you play as, with millions still playing as him today. He adds some modern representation to this game, which really only has one other modern character. Minecraft and Nintendo have a rapport since they have collaborated with projects in the past, and his moveset, despite maybe being controversial on the competitive side of things, is arguably the most unique in the entire game. Steve was also a highly requested character, and when he was revealed, he took the internet not just by storm but by rapture, literally killing Twitter for a bit. I'm not saying this because Steve was my most requested character. Okay, maybe a little. But it's hard to deny that he is an important part of video game history, and it would be a disservice to remove him from the cast of Video Game All-Stars. Now I would like to talk about some other characters I didn't choose and why. I heavily considered Pac-Man, but decided against him since he really only represents a single arcade game and maybe some others. Now I know I said this for Steve, but I feel like Steve is the better option since he's more popular and his moveset is more unique. Mega Man I decided against since I thought we already had enough 2D platforming characters from the 80s and 90s. Villager and Isabelle I said no to since their game genre is hard to tailor towards the game where you beat up people. Simon could have been a neat character to bring back, especially since his moveset is interesting. However, some of the other characters are definitely more important than him, I would say. When deciding on the characters for this roster, if I was feeling uneasy about some of my character cuts, I would remind myself that I am cutting the roster down to 10 characters. Some sacrifices have to be made if we want to make this roster as perfect as possible. And that's what I would tell all of you. If you're mad that your character isn't on this list, I had to pick 10 characters, some corners had to be cut. But that is where I would hand it to you. What 10 characters would you pick and why? Let me know in the comments and I will see you later. So to balance it out a little more, I decided on 7 first... That was brutal. So to balance it out a little more, I decided on... So to balance it out a little more, I decided on 7... Are you kidding me? So to balance it out a little more, I decided on 7 first-party characters and 3 third-party characters to represent the roster. With that all out of the way, let loose the secrets.